petitions that then go through the process. And then once we have that wording crystallized, then we're going to go for the signatures and hold on to your, I don't know, to whatever, but we're going to need almost 8,900 signatures. Because the number of signatures is dictated by how many people voted for the mayor in the last election, and it's got to be a quarter of that amount. So we are going to need more people, and we're going to need everybody, and we're going to need boots on the ground. But we have 21 pledges, and if you can talk to your friends, your neighbors, your church group, your HOA, the person standing in line behind you at the supermarket, your car mechanic, you will find a lot of people are awake, but they're not quite aware exactly what is going on. So if we can roll them in, if we can get them to look at the website, if we can send them information, if we can get them to become volunteers, then you know, we need to make our voices heard, but people need to know that there is something out there that is happening. So I take care of the website, but I also take care of Facebook and Instagram. And a couple of days ago, I posted this. And I found that, I don't know where I found it, but it resonated with me. It was, the reason speaking out is so important is that it lowers the perceived risk of those who are still silent and have something to say. Your courage matters. Your words matter. Every voice is a key to unlocking another's. And that's really sort of resonated with me, because if we don't speak out and they don't hear what it is we're saying, they think they're alone. And we are not alone. We are people that are awake. We have 27 volunteer sign-ups, and we're planning a volunteer meeting. So for those of you that are on the volunteer list, you should have gotten an email from me. We'll probably do this, we'll probably start working on setting that meeting up sometime next week. I'm taking a poll on whether day or evening and what day works. So far I've had anytime the replies. But if you're asking yourself, what can I do? I think together, all of us, once we start having the volunteer meetings, there will be ideas, there will be things, concrete actions that we will crystallize out and to not only educate, spread the word, but get more volunteers. We need the boots on the ground to tell people what's going on. There will be no meeting on October 24th. The next scheduled meeting here at True Life Center will be on November 27th, or might be on November 7th. We will let you guys know whether, because we do have to pay for the room here. But the idea for November 7th is to have a focus group and get everybody's input that isn't already a volunteer, and also hear from the volunteers as to what they have come up with. So I wanted to hand the microphone over to Rick, who will be updating you on some of the possible petitions that we have been looking at. So I know you won't need the microphone.
No, I think we're okay. So there is, this is right from our website. Welcome to 2030. I know nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. Really, what concerns me about it, all the Save Chattanooga, the thing we're fighting is we're trying to keep our privacy. That's one of the things. So as we first started out, we were battling the Climate Action Plan. And then in August, Mayor Kelly, he came out with the Housing Action Plan. And Kelly came in office in 2021. And then in 2022, he came out with something called his One Chattanooga Plan. And then in 2023, in March, they voted in, the city council voted in the Climate Action Plan, and then in August, the Housing Action Plan. So our focus has expanded from just climate issues to a broader base of everything. It's all coming together. And it's all really leading to the 15-minute surveillance city. It's not just the cap. We've talked about these before on the climate, the intrusive surveillance, taxes, fees and fines, and government land grab. This will be an upcoming presentation where in the housing they want to implement something called a soft density, single family residence. That's really not a good concept. They want to be able to get in soft density and put in, a lot of where they're going is affordable housing everywhere. They want to subsidize and have affordable housing everywhere. The next, income zoning, that is how they're going to subsidize and bring the affordable housing cost even lower by having mixed income retail to offset the prices even more. So you're going to have somebody in here paying half the price of somebody else. And I can just see the issues coming up with their lifestyle. I don't want to sound racist or anything, but people just, their lifestyle may be different than somebody that's at a whole different income level. And you're getting rid of economic segregation where you can't afford to live in a neighborhood, then you can't live there. Well, now they're planning on with mixed income zoning and soft density, they're going to put people everywhere that normally wouldn't be in those areas. And then that's where it's leading is affordable housing. So the government's going to get in, we're going to have more and more affordable housing in the city. And then intrusive surveillance, this is not part of Kelly, really. There's some of this intrusive surveillance, like the waste and all the audits of our properties to understand what's there. I'm sorry, what?
Smart meters.
Smart meters. Yeah, that would be here, but the intrusive surveillance, we already have street cameras, and then the license plate readers. They just got another grant for $400,000 to pick up another 35 of those in addition to what they already have. And then LiDAR, they're building those. A lot of this is it's at the on-ramps to the freeways. And then the police have something called Arctic, and it's where it's the camera on a pole, high crime areas. They can place these things anywhere. So 24/7 surveillance. And then the drones, they don't call them drones. It's in the agendas. They have another name for it, but they've purchased drones. And then all the police are wearing body cams. So all of this, I've seen some videos where they can pull in all of this. If they're looking for Mike over there, they can use all of this information and find Mike. It's very scary about what they're doing. So to really combat and try to fight these things, a petition can't really be worded as saying we just want to reverse the climate action plan, because the climate action plan is a resolution, it's a theory. And then the ordinances are passed to make the theory come into play, to make them become a reality. So staying on top of the ordinances as the city comes to vote on them is very difficult. What the idea is that with a petition, then we can actually put something out there that the citizens vote on it, and then the city council can't come in right after that and reverse it. Here are some possible petitions that we would have. That's one of the things is coming up with designing really what the actual petitions that we want to have. But we're thinking it's not just going to be one. You could have 3 petitions that hit the ballot. So just removing all data gathering. Right now they're collecting and selling their citizen information. Withdrawal from the National Park City program. That's very intrusive, where they're going to surveil a lot of things. Removing all the cameras, and this goes into the housing action plan, no soft density and mixed. This is very specific to say we want to keep our single family residents that way. We don't want a 4-plex going up right next door, or an 8-plex. And then part of the cap is where they're going to be implementing a car-free or low or no emission zone, and now you don't have the ability to drive where you used to be able to drive. They're going to limit your transportation. So, and that's it. For me, coming up is Paul, and he was here 2 weeks ago, and he gave a great presentation about the climate hoax, and today he's going to dive into the 15-minute cities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to play this?
Yeah, would you?
Oh, I'm sorry,
We
I
wanted
forgot
to
about the
start
video.
out
Yes,
with,
It's just a couple minutes.
it's a couple minutes long. It's, the guy's comparing smart cities and 15-minute city living as living in a chicken coop. So he actually goes out into his chicken coop, so you want to get started?
So come on and let me show you what a 15-minute community looks like.
How do we turn it up?
We've turned it up to max.
Oh, wow.
Here we go. These residents of the 15-minute community, they're not wrong. But they just stay.
Should we try your speaker?
Yeah, put the mic on.
So let's take a step inside.
Huh.
Can you stop it for a moment? We're gonna put the mic to wherever the speakers are.
Bluetooth mode.
Because it's only a couple minutes long, so it's not a big. So where do we want to? Do I have to push this?
Ready? Where's this?
Where's your speaker around here?
Do it?
Where's your speaker?
Come on and let me show you what a 15-minute.
I'm not sure. Oh,
What
yeah.
about here?
Here we go. These residents of the
That works.
let me just say, they're pretty simple, but they don't. So let's take a step inside. Every
Just stop here.
one. So come on and let me show you what a 15-minute it looks like. Right. Here we go. These residents of the 15-minute community, they're not volunteering, but they just stay there. They're free to come and go, but they don't. So let's take a step inside. Everything they need in their life is right here in their 15-minute community. Water bowl, a feed truck. They own nothing, but they are exceptionally happy. And you know how happy they are is by how many eggs they produce. And it's so wonderful because I get to take all everything that they produce and they just distribute. So let me go in here. And here we go. Each of them have their own house. Now in a 15-minute community, you don't get a lot of variation in houses. They're all pretty much the same. But we can take a look and collect their production. There's a few. There's a few more. And there we go. On the right. And they're happy. I get to take what they produce. They're free to come and go, but the world is so scary for them. They will never leave. I don't have to put a fence around them. Here we are. Not doing all that standing all of them. Everything is provided for them. They're cared for. They're happy together. It's all needed. What? So anybody who wants to understand what a 15-minute community is, there you go. And there's only one boss. That boss is right.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I think that's probably one of those videos that says it all. He touches on every point. Everybody's house is the same, everybody produces, nobody leaves, and they're all really happy. So you can find that video on the website,
That's
safechattanooga.com,
fine.
under 15-minute
We
city.
don't have that.
And if you go down on the link, on the tab for 15-minute city, there's lots and lots of videos. There are some kumbaya videos about how wonderful and life is going to be just really terrific. Marketing videos, and then there are some videos of people speaking out, and there's some explanations, there's some documentaries. I really urge you, I spend a lot of time on that website. I urge you to explore it, and why don't you come on over here to the table? No sense in sitting back there when the meeting is so small today. Hey, come on in. So with that, let me introduce you to Paul Scates. He gave a presentation to us a couple of the last meetings on climate change, what did you call it?
The big lie.
The big lie. So we asked him to come back and say, okay, what else can you talk to us about? And he said, smart city fraud, what's the real agenda?
You wonder where I stand on this. H.L. Mencken, if you don't know who he is, the Baltimore sage, he pretty much cut through all of the crap and the BS, could always nail the government to the wall. The urge to save humanity is almost always a false front for the urge to rule, and as you're going to see tonight, that's what this is. This is not about the climate. This is not about the things that the rhetoric says it's about. It's about control by, well, we'll see who it's by. Before I start, I want to talk about this group. Now, we've heard about 15-minute cities and smart cities. This group is called the C40 Global Climate Leadership Group. And it was started by a socialist London mayor. Socialists pop up a lot in all this stuff. Ken Livingstone is his name. Started in 2005. There's 97 cities now, I think. Mayors who are united to what? Combat climate change. Everything is based on climate change. And as I showed in the last presentation, it's a lie. The planet's just fine, okay? CO2 does not cause temperature rise. Science proves that. So anyway, they started this, and their goal was the same, cut CO2 emissions by 2030 and so on. 14 major U.S. cities are a part of this. I mean, the big ones. Look at that list there. New Orleans, San Francisco's in there, New York. These people are not, and this is the way they say it, we are not formally affiliated with the World Economic Forum. They always said that one, not formally affiliated. But the World Economic Forum has a link to their website in a very prominent position on the WEF website. And they go to all the UN meetings, the climate change meetings. So these people inbreed a lot. You'll see later why I want to tell you about this group, because they've got something going on now that's going to probably shock you. But we're here to talk about Smart City. Mayor Kelly's Climate Action Plan City, his plans for us. Where did that come from? It came from the World Economic Forum, the G20 Global Smart Cities Alliance on Technology Governance. What's it supposed to be doing? Well, they're trying to develop global policy for the collection, analysis, and use of this data that Rick was talking about. All this data they're going to gather on us. Where do we go? When do we go? How long do we stay there? How much electricity, gas, and water are we using? That sort of thing. I came across this. This is not mine, but I like that I had to put it in there. They call it a smart city because you wouldn't want to live there if they called it a concentration camp. And as you're going to see, that's essentially what this is going to be. Yeah, I should have my tinfoil hat on, right? Some wacko. Just wait. And if you feel that way at the end of this presentation, you can tell me so. This is Mayor Tim Kelly. At its core, this Climate Action Plan is a sustainability program for Chattanooga. Remember that word, sustainability. You see sustainable development or sustainability, it's all a part of this, this whole scheme. Now, last time we talked about this, when all of this net zero, reduce our carbon footprint, the smart cities, the 15s, it's all based on the idea that there is a climate emergency. We have to cut back CO2 or we're going to burn up by, in 100 years. That's a lie. It's the biggest hoax. It's the second biggest hoax in the history of mankind. The first one is that the devil doesn't exist, right? But this is right up there with it. And I said, that anytime somebody tells you this, oh, if we're in such dire straits, you have to do something right now, put one hand on your wallet, one hand on your knife, and back up against the wall. Somebody's trying to do something to you you don't want done, okay? Anytime they use crisis to get you to do something you wouldn't ordinarily do, first thing you need to do is take a hard look at the fact. Not what they say are the facts. These are the people crying, the sky's falling. They're not going to tell you the truth. You do the hard work. It's necessary. Find out the truth. And we did that, or at least I did that, and I am absolutely convinced there is no climate emergency. And there are a lot of scientists coming out of the woodwork now saying the same thing. They're getting over this cancel culture thing, and they're standing up. Here's the second thing you need to do. The people who are telling you there's a crisis that demands that you put aside your normal, reasonable approach to things and go ahead and act now because we have to. It's the same old thing as sailings at midnight, right? You got to buy it right now, it's going to be too late. Only this is a lot more serious. Well, what you want to do is examine the worldview of those people. What do they think? What have they done in the past? What kind of things have they supported in the past? And tonight I'm going to do that with two people. Okay? We're going to go down to two people. One of them, if you do that, by the way, you will see what their real agenda is. They don't even try to hide it. But one of those people is Klaus Schwab, the guy that dresses like George Jetson, talks like Dr. Strangelove. Hand him a white cat, he'd be the next villain in the James Bond series of movies, right? This guy's a caricature, but don't underestimate him. He's 81 now, I think, and he's been working at this for 50 years. Do you know anybody that's worked at anything for 50 years? He wants to see this realized before he dies. But we're going to talk about him later. I want to introduce you. I think I'll introduce you to somebody you've probably never heard of. This person I'm going to introduce you to has had more impact on our lives than any senator, any congressman, and probably any president. And I doubt if you've ever heard his name. He looks like a used car salesman. His name is Morris. He doesn't pronounce it Maurice, he pronounces it Morris. Morris Strong. He's a Canadian socialist, and he was the first head of the UN Environmental Program when they started in 1972. He was the head of that program for 33 years. He is the one that coined the term climate change. He is the one who created the IPCC, for example, and all these other UN bodies that are driving this climate hysteria part. Now, he dropped out of school when he was 14, went to work on shipping out there in the Northwest. After about 3 years, he came back and went into the fur business. And when he was 18, he met David Rockefeller. Anybody know who that is, David Rockefeller? He's the grandson of John D., the oil magnate, right? David Rockefeller was a lifelong proponent of global government. He made no bones about it. I have a paragraph out of his memoirs. He said, I want to thank the New York Times and the Washington Post and Time Magazine and all the other great publications who came to our meetings for 40 years and never revealed it to the public as we were implementing our plan for global government. He said, we would never have been able to do what we have done if we'd been brought under the spotlight of publicity. So when you think about what Time Magazine and New York Times and those people do, you got to think about that. They've known about this global government thing for 40, 50 years. They never made a mention of it to the public. Anyway, he met him when he was 18, and David Rockefeller took him under his wing, introduced him to the Desmarais family in Canada. They're the Canadian Rockefellers. So he went to work in the oil fields in Alberta. By the time he was 28, he was a multimillionaire. And then Rockefeller got him a job at the UN. And then he just gradually climbed up the UN until he got this job as the head of the UN Environmental Program. This is what he said in 1973. Isn't the only hope for the planet if the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? One of his dubious distinctions, he's Al Gore's climate mentor. And I'll tell you all you need to know about him right there. He is a board member of the Club of Rome and the World Economic Forum. Anybody remember about the Club of Rome? They put out a book back in 1972 called Limits to Growth. I think I've got it over here. Yeah, Limits to Growth in 1972. The Club of Rome was based on the idea that there are too many people in the world. They're going to use up all the resources, we're all going to starve and pile. They want to depopulate the earth. Okay? He's on their board. We're going to look at him more in just a minute. He's also on the board of the World Economic Forum. The Club of Rome was funded by, there's that name again, David Rockefeller. They actually met in his mansion in Bellagio, Italy, when they formed the Club of Rome. The goal, reduce the population from 500 million to 1 billion. Now, when they did this in 1968, the world population was about 5.5 billion. They never say out loud what they're going to do with all those excess people. Starvation of 2/3 of the world is deemed beneficial. Actually, Morris Strong in his memoirs said exactly that. He said that would be beneficial to humankind for 2/3 of the world to starve and die out. Now, this whole thing, the Club of Rome, is based on eugenics. You know what eugenics are. The Nazis made it famous. It's the idea that some people are more fit to live than others. It's a Malthusian. It's constant. Malthus said, don't let the undesirables breed. Just let the fit people breed. And that way, we'll have a better society down the road somewhere. Okay? Now, naturally, if you're one of those 5.5 to 6.5 to 7 billion people that they don't need around anymore, you're not going to go for this, right? So they know that global government is required to overcome the resistance to their ideas of depopulating the earth. There's that book the Club of Rome put out in 1972. They said the earth has cancer and the cancer is man. Anti-human much. Their words, not mine. And by the way, I thought the Club of Rome was just one of those fly-by-night things that kind of went away because I haven't read much about it over the past couple of decades. The co-author of this book, Dennis Meadows, said in May of this year, we need to reduce the Earth's population by 86%. But never fear, dear heart, a benevolent dictatorship can accomplish the elimination of 7 billion people peacefully. If you're not one of the 7 billion, I guess it's peaceful, right? Now, Club of Rome knew that eugenics was associated with the Nazis, so they had to separate themselves from that. So they started calling it something else beside eugenics. They called it population control. Sounds a lot more friendly, right? This is what one of the co-founders, Alexander King, this is what he said in 1991. We were searching for a new enemy to get everybody to join together because human beings need an enemy to fight against, right? We need a cause. He said, we were searching for a new enemy. We came up with the idea of pollution and global warming to get everybody to join together. Now, if you're an environmentalist, don't start throwing things at me. I'm not telling you that you're anti-human. I'm telling you that the people behind the movement, the core of the movement, is anti-human. Environmentalists, the radical environmentalists, reject the idea that God put man on earth and gave us dominion over the earth. They reject that. They said, no. The earth evolved. It was perfect until man came along. And then man's pollution and global warming, our original sin, that's what messed the earth up. It's a religion, folks. And some people call it the biggest religion in Western civilization today. Because of that sin, there is a judgment day coming. The heat's going to destroy the earth. Never fear, there is salvation, sustainability, sustainable development. Okay? The global government will eliminate modern industry, modern agriculture. Okay? They'll cut the population, they'll redistribute the wealth. We can be saved. You can carry this analogy on even further. What's the communion wafer for environmentalists? Organic food. What are the indulgences? The things that Martin Luther fought against back in the 13th century? What are the indulgences? Carbon offset credits. You pay enough money, you can go ahead and sin all you want to, right? John Kerry can fly wherever he wants to as long as he pays the money. All right. Environmentalism was anti-human. Obviously, the depopulation of the earth is anti-human. These movements have joined together. What happened is the globalists needed a cause to disguise their eugenics. Okay? And the environmentalists were so successful in having DDT banned, they got to look around for a new cause. Well, in 1970, everybody considers that the birth of the anti-nuclear movement. But they were too good because they were successful in that also. There's only been one nuclear plant license issued by NRC in the United States since 1979. That was Plant Vogtle for 2 units down in South Georgia. They were very successful. Now, I always wondered, if you're an environmentalist, why aren't you all in on nuclear? That makes no sense. I never understood it until I was doing research for this presentation. I'm going to tell you why here in just a minute. So, they were successful in their campaign against nuclear, so they had to find another cause. Global cooling, they did that in the late 70s and 80s. Ozone layer, that came and went. Acid rain came and went. Global warming, the temperatures were going up. Then around 2000, the temperatures leveled off and started going down. So, climate change, more strong, gave them a good cause. Climate change. Too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. It's all climate change. They can't go wrong with that. Now, this is going to explain to you why environmentalists are against nuclear power. Because it makes no sense when you first look at it. Ethanol. Ethanol is not made from fossil fuels, it's made from corn. So that's a great thing, right? And all the environmentalists were, yay, go home, let's go, we're all for that. Until 2008, when a man named Timothy Searchenberg published an article in Science magazine. Only problem is, he's not a scientist. He's a lawyer for the Environmental Defense Fund. He said, well, ethanol, yeah, on the surface it looks good, but if you do what's called indirect analysis, it doesn't turn out to be so good. He said, see, when the U.S. Reduced their corn exports and started using that corn instead of shipping it overseas, started using it for ethanol, well, the people overseas had to increase and grow more corn for themselves. That increased agriculture, which meant deforestation, right? More farm machinery, more CO2. So he said, if you look at it this way, indirectly, ethanol is really bad. And the environmental groups did a 180 immediately and started condemning ethanol. Again, if you look on the surface, wait a minute, ethanol is made from corn. How can it be bad? This indirect analysis. Now, carry this indirect analysis a step further. It's pure Malthusian ideology. Basically, you're saying with this indirect analysis, anything that's good for man is bad for the planet. Because man is the sinner who commits ecological sins, and anything that helps us and perpetuates our being is bad for the planet. Child labor laws, rural electrification, clean water laws, representative government. That's all great for me. That's wonderful. No, it's not. It's bad because it perpetuates mankind's sinning against the planet. This is why they oppose nuclear energy. I never could get my head around why in the world, how can